Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
How are you all doing? Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So, we can hear ourselves too. Hopefully that'll settle down. Hi, Nayaswami, how are you? You just got back from Bangalore?
Yes, Jane. Good morning.
Yes, nice to see you. Good morning. And everybody has to be at the same latitude as Lakshmi and Bhaskar. Otherwise, it's just foreheads and noses, but no faces. So that means Prasanna, you actually, and Rajesh. You guys are too close. So, hi Prem. Nice to see you. Thank you for your messages. Okay. Now, Bhaskar, you're in the same place every time. You do go in between, right? How are you?
Fine.
Yeah, very good, very good. Well, as you know, we're so glad to have Anandi ji here. Unfortunately, Darmini had a migraine today at the last minute and she's not able to join you, and she's particularly disappointed because, as somebody said recently, the time that we have been away has flown by, but now is suddenly going very slowly. And so it's the same for us too. Where those pictures of the Seva Day, I was just showing them to Anandi ji, and it was so nice to see all of your participation, and the sink was particularly looking clean. And anyway, so we're very glad. Hi, Vijay. Nice to have you there. Nice to see you all there. Those pictures really made us miss home. And so we're really looking forward to coming back. And and I thank you for joining us this morning. As you know, Anandi ji has done these for many years now. And you all read the little bio that I had sent earlier and all this. I don't want to embarrass her by saying all of her accolades right now, but as you know, we're very lucky to have her with us again like this, and so nice to be able to connect with you all.
Okay, well, excuse me, I just want to say how nice it is to see you. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, good. And I haven't seen you in your new center, so it's nice to see how beautiful it is, the little I can see of it, and to see you all. So, let's just go ahead and we'll start with a prayer and get into things, and we'll talk, and then we'll have questions at the end, and I hope you'll have some questions to share. So someone is coming in now. Welcome. Great to see you all, really wonderful. Let's begin with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, Beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahir Mahashai, Swami Shri Yukteswar, Swami Shri Yukteswar.
They're saying sometimes that you don't hear it.
Okay. Beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, Saints of all religions, humbly we bow to you all. Divine Mother, we are grateful for your light, for your divine love, which we feel in each other and in ourselves. Bless us that we may be channels for your vibrations. Om, peace, Amen. Let's do a chant together, and then we'll have a short meditation. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Let's meditate now. Sit up straight. And let's relax the body by first tensing it. Inhale with a double breath. Tense your muscles. Throw the breath out. Relax. Again, twice more. Take some long, deep breaths. Feeling the energy within you, the energy in the spine, flowing up as you inhale and down when you exhale. Breathing slowly and deeply. And now inhale and exhale. Let go of breathing deeply. And bring to mind Master's instructions. He said God is space. And if you want to know God, feel space within your body and all around you. So just for these next few minutes, let's let go of our surroundings, of our friends sharing the room with us, of the noises of the city, and just imagine space within us and space all around us. Only God. We'll close our meditation now with an affirmation on truthfulness. Can you hear me now? This is an affirmation on truthfulness from Affirmations for Self-Healing. Truthfulness is not caustic statements of unpleasant facts and unflattering opinions. Excuse me. Such statements are usually born of pride, but truthfulness is the effort always to see the divine truth behind appearances. It is the effort to express always that aspect of truth which may prove the most beneficial. Truthfulness as applied to ourselves means not to hide behind self-flattering justifications, to look honestly at our real motives for doing anything, and not to flinch before unpleasant realities in ourselves. Truthfulness means seeing things as they really are, but then looking more deeply for ways to improve those realities. So to affirm, let's say aloud, whatever is, simply is.
Whatever is, simply is.
I cannot change it for the mere wishing.
I cannot change it for the mere wishing.
Fearlessly, therefore,
Fearlessly, therefore,
I accept the truth,
and I accept the truth,
knowing that
knowing that
at the heart of everything,
at the heart of everything,
God's truth is always good.
God's truth is always good.
Now a little more inwardly, whatever is, simply is.
It is simply is.
I cannot change it for the mere wishing.
I cannot change it for the mere wishing.
Fearlessly, therefore,
Fearlessly, therefore,
I accept the truth,
accept the truth,
knowing that
at
at the heart of everything,
the heart of everything,
God's truth is always good.
God's truth is always good.
In a whisper, whatever is simply is. I cannot change it for the mere wishing. Fearlessly, therefore, I accept the truth, knowing that at the heart of everything, God's truth is always good. Let's do it now silently, focusing our minds at the spiritual eye. Whatever is simply is. I cannot change it for the mere wishing. Fearlessly, therefore, I accept the truth, knowing that at the heart of everything, God's truth is always good. And the prayer, silently, Heavenly Father, I will not fear the truth, for I know that truth comes from Thee. Help me to see behind all appearances Thy smiling, all compassionate gaze. So now we have a reading this morning, as you know, from Rays of the One Light by Swamiji, comparing the Bible and the Gita. And this week is called The Inner Kingdom. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Most people imagine that the inner kingdom, as Jesus described it, lacks the fascination they attribute to sense life, the bright lights, the diverse attractions, the joys and the laughter. Little do they realize what a vast universe exists in their own selves. There are many passages in the Old and New Testaments of the Bible that describe aspects of this inner kingdom. In the book of Genesis, we read, "And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil." It's from Genesis. This garden was in no earthly place. It exists even now in the very self of every human being. The legend of Adam and Eve is allegorical. It describes how the first human beings dissipated their spiritual energy, centered in the spine. The spine is the channel through which flows the river of baptism and of spiritual life. The Bhagavad Gita tells us, the wise speak of an eternal Ashvata tree with its roots above and its branches below. The tree of life, spoken of also in Genesis, is the spine. Its roots are above in the brain's energy. Its branches are the outward spreading nervous system. When the sap, which is to say the energy, flows downward, the consciousness is drawn into delusion. On the other hand, when the energy is drawn upward in deep meditation, the consciousness is drawn toward its eternal source, God, and is at last united with Him. Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita, therefore urges his chief disciple, Arjuna, to embrace the yoga science, the path of meditation. The yogi, he says, is greater than the ascetic, greater even than the followers of the path of wisdom, jnana yoga, or of action, Karma Yoga. Be thou, O Arjuna, a yogi. For those who would find the divine truth, Krishna gives this description of the yogi. Steadfast, a lamp burns, sheltered from the wind. Steadfastly meditating, solitary, such is the likeness of the yogi's mind, shut from sense storms and burning bright to heaven. Wherever you are, whatever your outward beliefs and observances, seek God in the silence of your soul. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om. And we have a very brief reading from Whispers from Eternity. Beloved and beautiful book. Keep my spiritual eye open forever. O spiritual eye, once opened, remain always open before me, that I may avoid every pitfall in my path and be led to the highway that leads to thy palace of peace. Give me answers to my every problem. Well, in a way, the Whispers reading gives us a good summation of what we've been reading about in Rays of the One Light. Today I was talking with a friend of mine who's going through a very big test. He's a young man, he's in his mid-30s, and he's married, and his wife has been ill for a number of months. A very mysterious illness, lots and lots of pain in her neck, and had occasional periods of blindness. It's been quite severe, especially for young people in their 30s to have this happen. And so they just found out on Wednesday that she had a growth in her brain, and it was holding fluid in her head. And they immediately had to go to San Francisco, to a big hospital, and so forth. A lot of things to be dealt with, and of course fear and a lot of things. And that's now become a little more calm down there. And I asked him how he was doing, and he said something very, very inspiring that I wanted to share because it relates to what we've been reading. It has been hard. He's scared. He loves her very much, doesn't want anything to happen. But he said that 2 years ago, he heard something at Sunday service, and it had to do with getting rid of negativity. And he remembered a story that you may remember. Swami Kriyananda used to tell it. I don't know if it's in any of his books. But there was a man who was an alcoholic, and he got well. He healed himself. He got beyond the alcoholism. And then something happened. He got caught off guard, and he started drinking again. And he got completely drunk. And when he woke up from that, he was so mad at himself that he just gathered up all of his bottles of alcohol, and he went out in the street, and he just, one by one, just threw them violently at the ground, so they all just splintered, and everything running everywhere. But he needed to put out, Swami said he needed to put out a lot of will, even with anger, just to say, I'm done with this. I'm leaving it behind. So my friend was telling me that 2 years ago, hearing this story, he applied it to himself. He's not an alcoholic, nor was he, but he felt like every time he was hard on himself, maybe he made a mistake, and then he got depressed about it, or something wasn't going as well as he hoped it would go. Things that just, you can get into a little mood about things like that and think you're not very good or you're not as good as you should be. And every time he'd feel that rise of negativity, he imagined doing the same thing as that man with the alcohol bottles, but instead he would throw his energy up to the spiritual eye. I'm done with all this mood. I'm done with all these negative thoughts. And just with that kind of will, just say, I really don't want to be on that level of consciousness, and would put his mind here. And so he said, it's very interesting, but because he's been doing this for 2 years, on very small things in his life, the usual things that catch us off guard and we get kind of moody about, he just hasn't allowed himself to go there. And because of that, now when something very big is happening, he said he feels, yes, he's concerned, and yes, he can even begin to cry a little bit because he's so worried about her. But he said underneath it, he's very, very calm. And he has a tremendous trust in what will happen. So, anyway, this is about the inner kingdom. And it's a lead up to it because we have, on the one hand, we know from meditation and your study of the chakras and the things that can happen in the spine, that beautiful lights, the spiritual eye, beautiful sounds, these things that are deeply familiar to us and deeply satisfying when we experience something like it. We know that's there. And yet, at the same time, that's not what our spiritual progress is really about. And Swami, in this reading, and it's a long reading and kind of a heady kind of a reading for people who are not, where there's a language challenge here. But at one point of the reading, he says the key thing is whether the energy in our spine is going up or going down. It's really not about, what lights are you seeing, what sounds are you hearing, but which way is your energy going? And when our energy is going up, we're generous. When we are generous, when we are kind, when we are loving, the Kundalini rises within us. When we are selfish, when we're negative, when we're hopeless, the Kundalini pulls down and buries itself deeper at the base of the spine. And that's just the way life works. We have to engage. Kundalini's not doing it by itself, and Kriya alone won't do this. Every moment, our Kriya practice is in the morning, in the evening, but there's a lot of time in between. And so that's when we're paying attention to which way is my energy going. And how can we tell? We can say to ourselves, is what I'm thinking now making me feel better or worse? If it's making you feel better, it's probably, your energy's probably rising. If you're feeling bad, you're probably involved in something about yourself and it's pulling your energy down. So we can use that as a quick guide. But that's just essential to this idea of tuning into the inner kingdom. One of my friends, she'd just been at Ananda a few years, and she was working with Swami Kriyananda. And so she said to him, she wasn't a great meditator, And so, maybe feeling a little discouraged, she said to him, Swamiji, am I growing spiritually? And he said, He said, you seem like you're calmer. Is that true? She said, yes. He said, do you feel happier? She said, yes. He said, are you being kinder to other people? She said, yes. Then he said, well, then I guess you're growing spiritually. He didn't say to her, are you seeing the inner light? What sound of Om have you heard? But how are you behaving? And that is the key. I don't know if you're familiar with the Indian saint named Neem Corley Baba. He became popular in the United States by one of his disciples. And Neem Corley Baba had a lot of American hippies as his disciples in the 1960s. And they were always saying to him, Baba, how can I make my Kundalini rise? How can I make my Kundalini rise? And he just, after a while, he just said to them, stop thinking about your Kundalini. Start serving other people. Now what's really interesting about that response is, on the one hand, it sounds like he's just frustrated with them. Stop thinking about your Kundalini and start thinking about other people. They needed that shaking, that to change. But it was also the answer to their question. So on the one hand, he was saying maybe what he felt. On the other hand, he was also answering their question. How can I get my Kundalini to rise? Stop thinking about yourself. Start serving other people. So this is a great thing about the inner kingdom. You know, we are living in what Master said was a Rajasic galaxy. Or maybe it was a Rajasic solar system, but I think it's a Rajasic galaxy. It's a very, very active galaxy. It's not a low tamasic galaxy where there's lots of evil, and it's not a highly evolved galaxy. It's Rajasic. And we're living in Dwapara Yuga, which is probably the most Rajasic of all the yugas. And we're living, both you and I, in very Rajasic countries. And so when we try to go in, we have to work hard. I mean, we have to relax hard. You have to relax hard. You have to put your attention into it, because nothing in your outer life is helping you do that, except your satsang, your center, your techniques, your guru. Those are all helping you. But your environment is not helping you. So this is the inner kingdom, and we want to work toward it. Swamiji, as I'm sure you've heard, was just the ultimate example for us. I never met Master, but seeing in Swami how much he was living in the inner world. When he got very old and he had to have people help him carry his body around, and he would be hospitalized with this thing and that thing, he'd say, how are you, Swami? He'd say, oh, I feel so much bliss, I can't stand it. It's so much I can hardly bear it. I had the opportunity for a brief time when his secretary was on vacation, a couple of months for some reason or other. I was his secretary. And one day, he was dealing with health problems during this time. And one day he called us down to his apartment, myself and the other people who were working with him. And I walked into his apartment, and I can still remember it. It was like walking underwater. The feeling of joy and interiorized energy, you could just touch it. It was so strong. So I go to Swamiji, what do you need? He said, I just want you to know I'm so ill today, I don't think I can work. And he wasn't kidding. His voice sounded ill. He had the aspect of someone being ill, but I couldn't put it together. the vibration was just extraordinary. And I thought, how is it even possible? But he was in the inner world, and his body was very ill, but his spirit was totally well. So you might remember Master in the autobiography of a yogi went to see Swami Pranabhananda just before Pranabhananda was going off to the Himalayas, and he was an old man, and Master said to him, "Tell me, sir, with your advancing age, is your connection with God, is your ability to feel God's presence diminishing now that your body is not as strong?" And Pranabhananda said, "Oh no, the beloved is with me always." And then he said that part of, I'm receiving 2 pensions now, one from your father who he used to work for, and the other from my Heavenly Father. He was receiving it on the inner world. And so for all of us, that's our hope, really. This world does not promise a lot. As we get older and older, we look around and go, there's a lot of things that can happen here. But if we can work, remember, we're not going to find it out there. We just aren't. I was talking with another friend of mine a couple of days ago, and she is in a situation with another person, and the other person is behaving not in the best way, not terrible way, but just in a way that it upsets her. And yet we can't get the other person to change. So then we have to say, okay, that's a given. This is how he's going to behave. Why is God giving this to you? What is in it for you? And we began to talk about how she needed to take that frustration that she felt here and leave it at the altar and fill her heart with love. Find her happiness in the inner kingdom and just do it, because her outer life was just denying that from her. So she has one option, but we all have one option. And sometimes God purposely does that, takes it all away so that we have only one option. The poem that Yogananda used to quote, I don't know if you know this poem, it's called The Hound of Heaven. There are tapes of Yogananda reading it. And it's about the Hound of Heaven is God, and he's running after the soul, and the soul is running away because he's afraid to be absorbed in God. And at one point, the hound says to him, to this man who's so fearful, he's saying, all these things I did take. In other words, things in his outer life. God says, all these things I did take, not for thy harms, not for thy harm, but just that thou might seek it in my arms. So, like it says in the reading, all the shiny, wonderful objects out there, God goes, okay, I'll take those. I want you for me. We had a friend who told us that he was visiting Mexico City, very big city, and he was in a hotel room high above the city, and he was standing on his porch, and he was looking out over the sparkling lights of this huge city, just entirely glittering with lights on a dark, moonless night. And suddenly, the city had a blackout, and the whole city went completely dark. And instantly, all the stars were visible. So those lights went out, and these lights came on. And I thought, that is such a great example. It's not a perfect example, because we are working to cultivate those stars. We can't depend on losing. There are many people who lose things in life. And they don't necessarily go inward. They can become bitter, they can become unhappy, grouchy, whatever. But if we're cultivating that inner, it really changes our relationship to the outer. We feel so much fulfillment from that inner light. So, wanted to share those things. I'm thinking what else. When Lahiri said, as I'm sure you've heard, solve all your problems with Kriya Yoga. What did he mean? He meant that your problems exist out there. They may seem very deep, they may seem very impossible, but the truth is they're all out there. And when we do Kriya and we discover and feel the inner world, and we tune into that more and more deeply, we're on a level where the problems don't exist. You know, karma and Kriya, I feel silly to tell this to you, but maybe you haven't heard it, even though you are more familiar with Sanskrit than I. But Kriya and karma come from the same root. But karma is the action that keeps us involved in delusion. And Kriya is the action that frees us from delusion. I believe Master said that practicing Kriya is the only thing that we can do where we aren't creating karma. Isn't that interesting? If you're having a bad day and you feel like every time you turn around and open your mouth, someone jumps into it, time to do Kriya, because it's the only place where you can go and there's no karma there. Yogananda told, I just want to say something about meditation, because obviously this is the way into the inner kingdom. And I wanted to just mention to you that everyone thinks that their meditation isn't good enough. Except that I want to just tell you that I know that my meditation was the worst of anyone's who ever started to meditate. I started to meditate, I think about 47 years ago. And I was instructed in meditation by Nayaswami Jyotish. I had very, very good instruction. And for 1 year, I was sitting happily on the floor, cross-legged with my eyes closed, my earplugs in, enjoying myself very much. Well, after that 1 year, I was meditating with a friend, and she had been on the path for 3 years. I had been for 1 year. And she said, I had a very good meditation. I concentrated on the Hong Sa technique for a full 5 minutes. Now, when she said that, I realized for 1 year, I had forgotten that I was supposed to concentrate. Now, I don't think anyone can go beneath that point. I looked very nice. I was sitting cross-legged, my back was straight, my eyes were closed, my hands were in my lap, and I was just doing whatever I wanted to. I might remember to say Hong Sa, but I might not. I might just think about this and think about that. And anyway, when she said that to me, I realized, oh my gosh, I have to do something. I can't just sit there and daydream. So that is my experience. That's where I started. I was back behind the starting line of the race. But if you just stay in the race and just keep moving and just keep doing it, it really doesn't matter. You're going to progress. And that's the only way you will progress. So I just want to encourage any of you, if you feel that you're not doing well at meditation, please know, just keep doing it. That's all. That's the only thing you need to do, is just keep doing it. And to help you do that, I wanted to just share 2 stories that touched me very much, that Master shared. One of them was about his high school. And in his high school in India, there were two boys who were very, very poor learners. And they just had a terrible time in school. And because of that, all the other boys made fun of them, and the teachers made fun of them. And you can imagine how awful it was to be in school like that. It was hard for them to learn, and everyone made fun of them. And so one of the boys said, I can't stand it any longer. I just can't stand it. I have to quit. And so he quit. And the other boy, and you know what happens if you don't finish school. It's not good. But the other boy said, I don't care. I'm not good at this. Everybody thinks I'm an idiot. They all make fun of me, but I'm going to finish. And he did. And he stayed in school. He did fine on his exams. He made it through because he didn't give up. And Master told that story for an obvious reason. He was talking about meditation and us and how easy it is to give up, and then we're left with nothing. But if we just keep doing it, that's all we have to do. And then he told another story, equally beautiful, and it's about the inner kingdom. He said that a man planted a flower in his garden. And he put the seed in the ground, and he watered it, and he fertilized it, and the plant began to grow. And it was a very robust plant. It looked very, very good. But it never produced a flower. And he was feeling, after a while, he was getting a little discouraged, and he kept feeding it, and he kept watering it, and he began to wonder if he should just pull it out of the ground and put something else in its place. And then he decided, it's really not up to me if it grows a flower. The only thing that's up to me is if I will feed it and I will water it. So I will just keep feeding it and I will just keep watering it, and the rest is in God's hands. And so he did that. And then one morning, when he woke up, he smelled a beautiful aroma. And his flower had bloomed. And again, it doesn't matter the lights you see, the sounds you hear. Sometimes if you keep going, out of nowhere, they'll appear. But the main thing is we just have to keep going. So I now just say, is there anything you would like to share or any questions that you have to have a little discussion now? What?
Could you slide back just
Yes.
a little bit? So, okay, completely unexpected.
My friend, nice to see you again.
So the first satsang that you had with us, the Skype satsang, the first one, in that you shared a particular technique for when we wake up from sleep to chant Om Spirit Bliss before we fully go into the day. I was hoping if you could also share the technique. Again, there are a lot of other people new after that satsang who have not heard it from you.
Okay. All right, I'll be happy to say that. Thank you for asking. Master, in his original lessons, said that we should practice when we wake up, also when we go to sleep, but also in the middle of the day. When we're opening our eyes or closing our eyes to, actually, I'm sorry, I think it was just waking up. Anyway, when we wake up and we inhale and then we exhale completely and we bring our mind to the spiritual eye and we repeat as many times as we can with our breath held out. Om Spirit Bliss. Om Spirit Bliss. Om Spirit Bliss. And then we repeat that, and we inhale again, and then we exhale and keep the breath out and repeat at the spiritual eye. Om Spirit Bliss. Om Spirit Bliss. It's a wonderful practice. Let's just do it together one time. Let's just, your eyes are closed. Inhale. Exhale completely and keep your breath out. And bring your mind to the spiritual eye and repeat to yourself, Om Spirit Bliss. Om Spirit Bliss. Om Spirit Bliss. And then breathe whenever you need to. And just start over again. Then exhale. Hold the breath out. Repeat Om Spirit Bliss. Om Spirit Bliss. Thank you so much for asking that. It's a wonderful way to energize your spiritual eye for the day. Also, I believe it's a way he gave to help us go into ecstasy, or also to leave the body consciously. I think there's a lot in this technique, so I encourage you to work with it. Anything else you're thinking about while your ministers are far away? Except that he's right here.
I was just thinking about how to get out of thinking that I am not a good meditator, but you just answered that before with the stories.
Yeah. Seems like there's many people who think that. Yeah. And I think, you know what Master said about his most advanced disciple, Rajasi Janakananda. We all have heard, perhaps, that Rajasi went into samadhi very, very shortly after he met Yogananda. How soon? It was in the first year, I believe. It was very quickly that he went into samadhi. And someone asked about Rajasi, and Master said, Rajasi does what I tell him to do, and he never looks for results. Very powerful concept that really we're just disciples. We have the techniques, the gurus told us what to do. Really, that's all we have to think about. We just do what he said. And whether we are doing it well or doing it not well, it's really not our problem. So
that is very encouraging.
Any other questions? Yes, Rajesh?
Thank you, Anandi ji, for helping us with satsang. I wanted to ask how sometimes our interest not completely vanishes but decreases in the sincerity or seriousness partly. I'm interested in doing this, all the sadhana and all those things, but somewhere down the line, every day the consistency reduces and the interest drops. How do we regenerate that same level of interest?
The same level of interest, yes. How do you maintain the same level of interest?
Yeah, especially when it starts to go down.
Yeah. It's a problem everyone has. And one of the most awe-inspiring things Yogananda said was, your meditation should be deeper every day than the day before. And I don't know that I know anyone who's been able to do that. Just, really? How could you do that? So when your interest drops, sometimes, Yogananda said, sometimes the donkey stops being willing to move forward. And there's nothing you can do to get the donkey to move except let it be there for a while. Not hit it with a stick, that doesn't help. Not beat yourself up with a stick. Just, it's okay. I'm pointed toward God. I need resting. And sometimes you can awaken your enthusiasm. Sometimes even if you open a book of Yogananda's writings, sometimes one sentence will change everything. I've had that experience many times. So I think we're in a game. We're in a game with our ego, and we have to outsmart the ego. You know, the soul says, oh good, I'm moving forward very quickly, and then the ego moves into position with a new strategy to stop us from moving forward. And so then we have to be smarter than the ego and think of something. I still remember, I know you probably know Hari Das from Bangalore. Well, he lived here in the very early days, and I still remember something he said. He said he was a very strong meditator. And he said, sometimes I just get tired of meditating. He'd only been here for a few years, young man. And he said, so I get in my truck, and I drive down the road till I come to a big meadow. I get out of the truck, I lie on my back in the meadow, and I look at the clouds, and I practice my Hong Saw looking at the clouds on my back. And he just needed to break it up, get out of the box, not be trapped, not say, okay, every morning I do this, and I must do that, it has to be here. Just make it a little bit more personal. Make it a little bit you and God having fun together, and keep it interesting for yourself. I went through a phase of having terrible trouble practicing Kriya, so much so that I was getting more and more, my brain was getting more scrambled the more I practiced. It was a very bad period. And someone told me I needed to see the sunrise. So what I did, I wake up, put on my tennis shoes in the dark, and walk out. We're very fortunate. We have rolling hills and so forth. Walk out to a place where I could see the sun. It was still dark. Do my energization exercises. Watch the sun come up. It felt like God was coming. I went and sat down on a bench outside and did my Kriya there. I just needed to change things and make it more interesting. Maybe there's a temple, near you or something like that. Maybe there's some holy place that you just have to do something different. So think about that. See if that can help. But everybody has that. It's just the way it is. And those times, those are important times. Because when you have a lot of enthusiasm, and especially when you're feeling a lot of love, it's easy to meditate. I think those are the times that God is giving to us. God is giving to us. God is giving to us. Then, takes it away, and now you have to give to God. Okay, I don't want to be here, but I am here. And I'm giving. I'm not just waiting for you like a baby, we're like a little baby. Feed me with your sweet divine love. I only want to be with you when you're giving me divine love. And sometimes I say to myself, I need to be able to do this when there isn't anything, when it's just me giving, me giving, me giving. And so it's a very important part of the path, and that's why everybody has those experiences. Because God needs to take it away and say, are you still doing your sadhana when you don't want to? Well, you are. That's nice. I can see how bored you are, and you're still sitting there. That's good. That's good. So, yeah, it's a very interesting path. When I got on the path in the beginning, I was having nice meditations. I thought, I was 24. I thought, in 6 months, I should be there. I reached the goal. At this rate, it's going to be like that. And I didn't really know that it was going to be like this, And that's all part of it. And that's all good. It's really important for us. One of Yogananda's disciples said, if it was all inspiration, easy time, good feelings of God's presence all the time, he said, you would feel that pretty proud of yourself. but you think I'm doing a really, really great job here. But when God strips it away, then suddenly, oh, now I'm humble again. And you need it. You need that. We need that. That's why we get it. So, okay.
That really helps actually, because just get stuck in this monotonous work, and mind approaches the same way. When the monotony hits, it's just blank, doesn't want to move actually.
Yeah,
No energy to. I was just thinking, why did I lose interest suddenly? So, thank you.
You're welcome. Well, very, very nice to see you. Yes?
Very nice to see you again, Anandi ji.
Nice to see you again, Sandra.
I have sometimes for me it is like during meditation it is really deep and we have full concentration on that. But sometimes there is still meditation is, we feel that the meditation is deep, and at the same time we are aware of the other situations. Sometimes there is total concentration, but sometimes there is this, we are aware of even the little sounds that's happening and all that, but at the same time we are able to meditate also. So does that happen, or is that concentrated meditation, or like being aware of other things also, external things also during meditation? So I want to know the difference.
Okay, thank you. You know, I'm going to have to ask Dharmaraj, because when your voice comes through this microphone, it gets chopped into little pieces, and I can't hear you very well, but Dharmaraj can
What she was saying
understand.
is when you're meditating, you're concentrating. But sometimes, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sharmila, sometimes you are meditating and concentrating, but also aware of other thoughts, other situations. But it's not, I think what you're saying, Sharmila, it's not just that the mind is wandering, because there is concentration
Yes,
also.
yes.
But sort of, what is that? Is that what you're asking?
Other external things also.
Yeah. Is it okay, or how does it compare?
Yeah, I know. I had this image that, let's say, your mother, and you're sitting in the kitchen with your friend, and you're talking to your friend, and you're completely focused on talking to your friend, but you can hear your children in the living room, and you know, okay, that things are going okay, nobody's hitting each other, nobody's crying, everything's okay. You can just hear this sort of little conversation, but you're totally focused on this person that you're talking to. And I think I certainly have experienced that in meditation. And so sometimes we want to just say, okay, let me try to just feel the breath inside the nose a little bit more sensitively. You know, that sensation of breath inside the nose, if we really feel it, we can't think of other things. Now, we can forget to feel it easily we can forget to feel it, and then suddenly we can think of other things. But that's one way we can help ourselves. It's just like, okay, where is my breath actually? Or the same thing with the Kriya. They both have a tangible quality that helps to quiet our minds. I had an experience a few months ago with meditating with a friend who's a very deep and great soul. And I tuned into a level of interiorization that I had never felt before. And I thought that is it. You know, yes, of course, we all have what you have, definitely, I know that. But we can go deeper. And it's really a great thing. So we can use our techniques, we can use our devotion, just to say, let me just cut. What I did with you at the beginning when I said God's body is space, and we have to feel space inside of ourselves and space all around us. I've been doing that in meditation lately because life gets so busy and everyone's problems are so real and all of the demands are so real. And I just, when I sit and meditate, I try to go, really, I'm in outer space with God. There isn't anything else here. And just try to loosen make it looser, the connections upon you. So, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before you go, we
Yes.
have just one
Oh.
thing. We're not surprising you that there is a gift, but
No, you
it
are
is a surprise
so
of what the
sweet.
gift is. So
No, I
many
was-
people contributed for this one. So
That is so sweet. You know, this is something I really enjoy. You don't have to give me something. It's very sweet of you. Oh my goodness. Okay, oh, it's been wrapped up. Oh, there's two things. There's many things in here. These are all for me? Oh my goodness. I thought maybe we should spread them around. Okay. Try to do this without taking all your time. Elephant.
yeah, that's think of that as a price tag and just keep opening.
Okay, I thought maybe it was...
It's not the password.
Oh, it's...
If you like, I can get you a
Scissors.
sharpening.
Yeah, we may need to... We should have opened the easier ones first. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Bear with me. Be very patient. My husband, when he was a little boy, every Christmas, they would give his dad the same present. They would have something small in one box and another box and another box. So the dad would have to keep opening, and the kids thought it was the funniest thing in the world. I'm sure the dad was not. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is beautiful. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
Can you all see it?
It's a wonderful elephant. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. So. Who's buying all these presents? Very nice of you. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is beautiful. Oh, that's wonderful. That's really, really beautiful. Thank you. Nice to have to perk up the blue.
You
Oh,
can,
this
you
is
can
just-
hang that and then put little things in the envelopes or.
This is just beautiful. Thank you. Really gorgeous. I feel like I just had a birthday or something. Thank you so much, whoever thought of all these things. I really, very touching. Thank you. Very sweet. It's so nice to spend time with you.